Hi everyone, Raphael Harry here, and you're listening to White Label American, a podcast where we hear stories from an immigrant or two, sometimes more. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Welcome to another episode of White Label American. I'm your host as usual, Raphael Harry. And before we begin, I would like to give a shout out to my patrons. Thank you for your support. Without you, we wouldn't be here. And for everyone listening, especially our new listeners, thank you for joining us. You can also support us. We welcome new supporters. Keep us going. Join us on Patreon for as low as $3 a month, or you can do a one-time donation of any amount that you're comfortable giving. And help us build community, take this podcast to the next level, and help us start newer projects and bring more fun, good stuff to you. Also, you can support by getting our t-shirts at vetclothing.com, any color of your choice, and if you want us to change the design of the t-shirts, by being a supporter, you can also have a say in doing that. So yes, there's more ways to do that. But if you can't support us financially, you can also support by always going on Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform of your choice and giving us 5 stars and a positive review every time. You can do it as many times as possible. We always say Apple Podcasts first because that's the largest podcast platform. So pushing us on that will always be of a huge, huge help. So go up there, give us a great positive review, 5 stars. And don't forget to like, share with your friends, family, loved ones. It helps. It helps every time you share this podcast episodes and, we put our name out there. So with that being said, I have the honor of introducing today's guest, Nalasi Mendy. He's the first male guest I've had from this country, who was born in this country in West Africa. I've had, during my first year of the podcast, I had the honor of having a woman who was born in this country be on the show. And he's a brother who I met back when I was living in Texas. But he's moved from that city where I used to live in, but he's still in that area. So he's a father. He's an IT professional. He's in the master data management field. He's a principal consultant at Mendy Consultancy. He's a volunteer. He's an all-round good man who just stands for charity and uses his cycling skills a lot. Yeah, it makes me want to learn how to ride a bike. I don't know how to ride a bike. But I'm going to learn in about 2 weeks. I'm going to start learning. Finally, before I get to age 40, I'm going to start learning how to ride a bike. So this is one brother who, I want to try and emulate a little bit so I can start riding a bike, But he does a lot of good for his community and, with his skills. And he's someone who I know has a great story that I just had to get on the podcast. So without much being said, welcome to White Label American podcast. How you doing today, brother Nalasi?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me on. I'm excited. I've told anybody who could listen, I said, hey, I'm good to be on a podcast. And this is the name of the podcast, including my children and White Label American. And so at first I was actually nervous. I was like, oh, what am I going to talk about? So needless to say that I was relieved when you sent me at least a list of questions. I said, okay, I'm not going to be blindsided.
Nah, the goal is not to blindside you. There are other platforms that do that, but we're here to have a conversation, and it's for myself and for the audience to all grow together because by hearing our journeys and humanizing it, we tear down artificial walls by doing that. Right. So we all grow from that. So let's dive into your story right from the beginning. So you have 2 beautiful names, and if you are into the football or soccer, as we say over here, your last name is quite common now in soccer due to the number of players who have that last name. But your
Yes.
first name, Nalas, which, if we go by the spelling, people will just call it Nalasi.
Nalasi, yes.
But it's
And
Nalas.
that's what my ex-wife used to call me whenever she was angry with me. She would say Nalasi.
Oh no. So let's start with your names. Nalasi Mendy. What do they stand for? What's the meaning to behind those names?
So I'm actually a person who's very interested in names. I guess at some point we'll talk about names because all my children actually have names from my tribe or language.
What tribe is that?
Nalas actually means someone who plays.
Oh.
And it's actually the implication is somebody who plays a musical instrument.
Okay.
So so I was named after this gentleman who played a stringed instrument. And by the way, my tribe is Manjapu, which is, I don't know, we're probably less than 200,000 people between, we're spread from Guinea-Bissau, Senegal, and Gambia. And so if you see anybody with the last name Mendy,
Yeah.
it's safe to assume that they're Manjaku.
Oh.
So Nalas means someone who plays a musical instrument. So I was named after this gentleman who played this stringed instrument called Buchundu. And I don't know how many strings it has, but so he was referred to by his profession, which is Nalas. But his name actually was Laurent, which was a French, I think it's French version for Lawrence or something like that. So people call him by his profession, and people, because I was named after him, people call me what they called him, which is Nalas. So the story with the I at the end, neither of my parents could read or write. So when my dad took me to start elementary school, back then there were no pre-K or kindergarten.
Yeah.
You go straight from home to first grade. And so they asked him, they're like, okay, what's your child's name? And he said, Nalas. So the teacher, whoever was writing down, registering me, was not from my tribe, so she couldn't understand. She heard something differently.
Yeah.
So she wrote it down with an I, and so that's why there's an I at the end of my name.
Oh, I see. Wow. So it's fascinating how many. It's not the first time I've heard a story like this, but this is the first time I've heard a story like this on the podcast.
Okay.
And it's fascinating how many times there have been stories like this that I've heard growing up in Nigeria, where a teacher couldn't pronounce someone's name, a teacher from a different tribe or a teacher was from a different country who tended to mostly be white. And they would just, so that's how the person's name changed by a letter, and in some cases the pronunciation of the name even changed.
Correct.
Yeah, and it just stuck.
The interesting thing is, I remember, so from first grade going to second grade, I remember my name actually no longer had an N at the beginning, but it had an M.
Oh,
and
wow.
Then by the time I went to third grade, I think somebody caught it, a teacher caught him like, and they probably said, no, this name needs to be an N because this child is not pronouncing his name with an M. And so that's how it stuck with an N. But the I stuck around until I actually came to this country. And when I became a citizen, I was like, maybe I should drop the I. I'm like, 40-something years old. I'm halfway to the grave. Why bother with a single letter,
But,
and then I'll tell you something about the last name Mendy, right?
Yeah.
So I'm very interested in language, African languages and language, beginning of words, names and stuff. So Mendy, so I have cousins whose last name are Gomez, Gomez, right? And Silva, Sylva, Korea, Correa.
Oh wow.
Ferreira Pereira. So then I said to myself, Mendy probably was supposed to be either Mendoza or Mendez.
Fascinating.
And the reason is that because the Manjaco people originated from Guinea-Bissau, and Guinea-Bissau was colonized by the Portuguese.
Yes.
So my people, the Manjaco people, adopted Portuguese last names.
Oh.
And so Mendy, I think, was supposed to be Mendez, Mendez or Mendoza or whatever the variation should be.
Hmm.
If you look at the other tribes people with last names of Gomez,
Yeah.
Correa, Ferreira, Pereira. So when I became a U.S. citizen, I was actually seriously thinking of changing my last name because I have an African last name. And I said, I don't think I want Mendy. But because I already have children,
Yeah.
and then I was talking to my I have siblings in England, and they were like, please do not change your last name because then our children wouldn't know they're related. But I actually was seriously changing it to our clan name because last
Yeah.
names are actually based on clan.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
was going to change it to our clan name, which was going to be Bakabin, like BA,
Mm-hmm.
and then either CABIN or KABIN, Bakabin.
Bakari.
Um,
Oh
so
wait.
that's
So
with
that sounds like the Yoruba Bakari.
yeah, like Bakari. Yeah, Bakari would be a first name. But so you see, well, once we go, so Bakabing, so in Manjaku, the word BA
Mm-hmm.
means belonging to.
Oh, okay.
So if you say Bakabing means the people of Kabing or belonging to Kabing. So I'll tell you a
Oh.
short story. My uncle, I had an uncle who passed away in 1993. And one day he used to hang out with my dad. He came and he's like, oh, I want to change my last name from Silver to Bangau. Ngau. Bangau. B-A and then Ngau. Ngaw.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought it was funny. I was younger. I didn't know the implication. Now when I look back, I'm like, yeah, he was onto something.
Yeah.
He was onto something.
Wow.
So,
Because so like my clan name or my ours is Ari,
mhm.
ARI.
Okay.
And the story that I've been given is that my I think my great grandfather or my whichever one, when he
Mhm.
went to school, the white man or white woman, whoever it was, couldn't pronounce. I don't know how he struggled. That's like one of the easiest. There are names from my region that I've seen that I'm like, I'm never going to touch that name. I'm just going to keep walking. I keep walking. And for some reason, the person kept struggling with that Ari and started calling him Harry. And that's how the name changed.
Oh, I was
That's
wondering.
that's how
Okay.
the name changed because we had converted to Christianity a long time.
Yes.
When the Portuguese arrived, we started converting because Portuguese arrived first and then followed by the Dutch and then um, the English,
Mhm.
British, and
Yes.
but that's why we Catholicism was what we first went with, and yeah,
Mhm.
Catholicism was big in our region, and then the Pentecostal. But that's why when you said silver, we have silvers too. Like
Yeah,
a
okay.
former he's a minister now.
Okay.
SILVA. He's a yeah.
Oh, okay.
He made it to. He was a former governor, and he made it to. He's currently a minister in the current
In
government
the
in
federal
Nigeria, in the
government.
federal
Oh.
government. We on the Yoruba side in like Lagos. There's one of the wealthiest families there is Fernandez. But I
Oh,
think there's
wow.
that one may be one of the slaves that returned back from Brazil. I know there's one.
Yeah.
One
And
is
settle.
one is there's two that I can't remember which one is which, but one of them returned back from Brazil, and they kept that Fernandez. Then another
Nice.
one, for some reason, I don't know how they ended up with Fernandez and it's Yoruba, which is rare to see Yorubas going with a last name like that. But
Yeah,
in our,
Yoruba,
but if you
exactly.
come to my side in the Niger Delta, it's not
Mm.
uncommon to see people with last names like Smith or
Yes, foreign land, yeah, European.
or even Portuguese last names,
Yes,
because
for yeah.
they like the Kingdom of Wari, the
Mm.
Olu. One time they took that's one of the ways they got us. They would take the princes will be sent to the courts, royal courts
Oh, Morocco. Okay,
in
okay.
Europe. So
Mm-hmm.
in Portugal, they were trained, but they were trained by the royal house in
Yes.
Portugal.
Yeah.
So they were speaking Portuguese and all
Mm-hmm.
that, and they would get Portuguese names and all that. So like the current crown of the Olu of Warri came from Portugal. So
Oh, really?
yeah, it's a
Wow.
gift from
Okay.
Portugal. Because when you see, you're like, why are you wearing that type of crown? It don't make sense. Well, if you see Oba of Benin, it has a traditional looking. It looks like something that comes from. It makes sense for a king. There looks. It looks like, yeah, he's from this region, this part of the world.
Re-
Then you see
re-
Olu of Warri has shiny looking. His crown looks something that looks like European. It looks very European.
European.
And then
Yeah.
when you go into that part of history, you're like, oh yeah, they took. There was a time the princes used to be sent to Portugal to go be trained.
Oh, yeah.
And
I actually just learned something. I didn't know there was Portuguese influence in. Well, I know they were like the first
oh yeah,
navigators.
oh yeah, it
Uh,
was after they discovered Indonesia. A bunch of them started. They didn't pay attention to Africa that much. Otherwise, they would have
yeah.
colonized a lot more of Africa
Mm.
what's it called than than the British and the rest did in France.
Came afterwards.
Yeah, but that's beautiful stuff that you just open my eyes to when it comes to names. And I'll definitely have to go look into that now. And yeah, and the tribe too. So that makes sense now. Why I see the name Mendy amongst lots of people. Yeah, well, I see the name Mendy spread across from Senegal to Guinea-Bissau and all the countries around that area. So let's go to your childhood now. So can you introduce us to your place of birth and what your childhood was like?
Um, it's Gambia, of course, the Gambia,
Well, the audience
and
doesn't know. I know, so we have to make sure the audience knows. So,
yes, I
yeah,
understand.
we're in Gambia.
Well, my birth certificate says Igbo Town. So it's not Igbo with an IBO, but
Yeah.
EBO.
Oh, EBO. Yeah, I was about to
Yes.
say, wow, they have a place called Igbo Town.
Yeah. So but so I was born there, of course, in '67. Not many. There were very few hospital births.
Yeah, yeah.
So you basically most people were born at home.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I'm saying this is because my kids always like, Dad, you're never sick. I said, no, I was born on a dirt floor and all the bacteria in the world, all the bacteria in the world invaded my body from the first hour I was on this planet. So I've built a unique immune
Immune
system.
system, yeah.
Yes.
Um, so, what was childhood like growing up in Igbo Town?
Well, actually, it was just briefly. My family moved to this small town, which was so the if you know the geography of Gambia, Gambia is basically you have a river that runs runs from the Atlantic Ocean, which is west to east, and so there's a north bank, a
Mm-hmm.
patch of land, which is the bank of the river, north of the north bank, and then the south bank. So to go from the north bank to the south bank of the country, you actually have to traverse the river.
Wow.
So the river actually, it's half of it is fresh water, the other half is salt water. The salt water comes
Oh,
from the Atlantic Ocean,
okay.
and the fresh water comes from the plains in Guinea Conakry, the
Yeah.
Fouta Djallon highlands in Guinea. That's where the river gets its source from Guinea, flows through, and then it meets somewhere in the middle of the country. So back to the story. So in my early days was in Aljamdu, which is this very small place. I have recollections of it. I think we lived there until I was about 5. Then I moved to Serekunda. If you know a lot of people, Serekunda is the biggest town or city in Gambia, bigger than the capital, Banjul.
Oh,
So I
wow.
actually went.
I wasn't expecting
Yeah.
that.
Well, when we say big, so we have to put it in context, right?
Yeah.
So the Gambia is about 350 miles long, or if not shorter, long. And then at its widest point, which is by the Atlantic Ocean, I think it's less than 20 or 30 miles wide. So it's a small place.
Yeah, it is.
So if we're talking about the biggest city, it's probably less than some counties in Texas, as small. But yeah, Serekunda, the biggest city, and so that's where I went to elementary school.
Okay.
From first grade to sixth grade. Back then, we call it primary school.
Yeah, primary school.
I think it's still called
It's still called
primary.
primary. Yeah, because the Gambia, Ghana, Sierra Leone, and Nigeria,
Sierra Leone, yeah.
we all use the same school system of primary
Yes.
school, secondary school, yeah, and university. Because I think we all do WIAC and
Yeah, WIAC,
Yeah.
yes, WIAC. So,
yeah.
yep. So after sixth grade, everybody sits to the same exam. It was administered by WIAC, but I don't think it was throughout the English speaking West Africa. But everyone takes the same exam. It was high intense, high stakes testing. If you scored high, then you go to a high school. If you don't score high, then you go to a technical training secondary school. So I went to a high school, and it was a technical high school. So at the time, most of the schools, most of the good elementary schools and the good high schools were actually Catholic high schools, Catholic schools.
That was a common thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Yeah.
I moved to this other small town called Lamin. That's where I went to high school. And then after high school, I went to, taught. I was a very good athlete, like an all. I played basket. I was a star basketball player, star track, star volleyball player, star.
Oh, you were all sports.
Yes, I was, and I'm not blowing my own horn. I was very good. And so after high school, the principal said, "Hey, why won't I hire you to be a PE teacher?" I'm like, okay, so that's how. So I became a PE teacher after high school. I was it's still coach track, soccer, basketball, volleyball, and the rest of them. So
Okay, so during your there's a question I'm going to ask, but I'll still come back to that question. It's one of my favorite questions to ask. But on the sports side, your high school days, primary high school days, which was your favorite to play? If you had to pick one sport to play, which one will it be?
Well, it actually depends. So I played soccer elementary school, played soccer in high school. I actually did not play basketball. So I didn't play basketball until my junior year, which here would be back then the WAEC system was 5 years of high school. So you have Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, Form 4, and then Form 5. So I actually started playing basketball in Form 4, and I loved it.
Wow.
So I loved playing basketball in high school in my junior year. And even after high school, still love basketball. And now I went back to football. I was soccer. It's now my favorite. even watching it, that's what I enjoy watching more.
So, what's your favorite position to play?
I mostly played forward. So I was a goal scorer. So back then the traditional formation was 4-2-4, right? Now you have all these formations 3-4-2-1 or whatever. But back then it was straight 4-2-4. So you have your two midfielders, right? you have your left wing and your right wing.
Yeah.
So I played left wing, even though I'm actually right-footed.
Okay.
And that actually tricked a lot of defenders because they thought I was always going to my left
Yeah.
because and I would go to my right. But yes, I
Uh,
was and then in my 20s, I thought I was too old to be a forward. So I said, okay, I'll just be a defender.
uh, all right. So let's go back to your childhood. What do you consider your favorite childhood memory? And you can give us more than one example.
Well, my favorite childhood memory actually was actually my dad. So my dad, you know, we were we were we we were poor, just to put it bluntly. But my dad managed to own a bicycle,
Mm.
which a lot of families didn't own a bicycle. So my dad owned a bicycle, and I remember he would put me on the crossbar, the in the front, and
Yeah.
then my younger brother. I have a younger brother who's like almost 3 years younger than me in the back. And every time we were going to town, for example, to Serakunda, remember this village we lived in, Aljamdu was in the North Bank.
Mm-hmm.
Serakunda is on the South Bank. So he would ride the bicycle. I don't know how. To me, it was like a long ride, but looking back, it probably was less than 5 miles of bike ride. So he'll park the bicycle, then we'll get on this ferry. And this ferry was an old rickety, I think it was made of wood, if that's possible for a ferry.
Probably. Probably.
And you can actually see from the North Bank in Bara, which is the town on the north, looking across to Banjul, which is the capital city. You can actually see it. You can actually pretty much walk across it if you could walk on water or if there was a bridge. And so you cross with the ferry. So those were my childhood memories. And he'll buy pastries and all that. We'll go to Serakunda, visit families, and then go back. And then the other one also was the first time I actually visited Lamin. And Lamin actually was where I went to high school. And I think I was in second grade. I went there for the summer, live with an uncle. And I had a great summer. And then school started. I went back to Serakunda. And after school, instead of walking home, I walked to Lamin. And I could imagine my dad's and everybody's consternation that I didn't come home from school and they were looking for me, looking for me, looking for
Yeah.
me. And I guess somebody had the presence of mind say, hey, why won't you go to Loving? Maybe he went back there. And there I was hanging out with the other kids. My dad didn't, back then you get a whooping. My,
Yeah.
my dad didn't give me a whooping. I didn't get a whooping for that one. So those are my childhood memories.
Ah. So Lamin, did that also feel like you were walking a long distance?
Yeah, so I, in the context of Gambia, so
Yeah.
Lamin, my brother and I went to high school in the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Lamin from Serekunda. So my younger brother, he lives in the UK, and everybody thought Lamin was bush, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now when you look back, Lamin is barely 2 miles, 3 miles from Serekunda. so but then back then it was like some distance. You're like, wow. So some of us who lived in Serakunda, we were like townspeople or city people.
Yeah.
So we moved to Lamin to go to high school. So we formed our own clique, right?
Of course.
So we didn't we spoke the town people language. We'll get to that in a moment, which is Wolof, and some
Okay.
people call it Jollof.
Yeah, that's where
Jollof.
the whole
Yeah.
Jollof war. People don't want to acknowledge.
Yes.
Uh,
So we spoke Wolof, and the people were like, oh, these people think they're better than anybody else. They spoke Wolof. Of course, that's the only thing we knew how to speak. But so yeah, I stayed in Lamin for 10 years. After high school, I still stayed back there because my dad actually had two compounds, one in Lamin and one in Serakunda. So I just stayed in the one in Lamin. I was living on my own with my younger brother. So
wow. So when you after secondary school and you were offered the PE job to become the
mhm.
PE teacher, what were the challenges that you faced now that you became a teacher?
The challenges actually were okay. Here I was. I'm now a PE teacher. The most I'm 5 years older than the students. So the ones who came in from one, right? The
Yeah.
freshmen, they probably were 5 years younger than me. And then the people, the people who were seniors were like a year, maybe 2 years younger than me. So it wasn't a big challenge, but they have to go from calling you by your first name to calling you Mr. Mendy.
Uh-huh.
You know, and so I made it easier for them because I happened to go to a basketball coaching seminar like 2 3 weeks, and when I came back, I said, "Don't call me Mr. Mandy. I'm now a coach." So everybody called me coach. Even my siblings started calling me coach. So
so
that made it
so
easier.
wait, did you dress like coach, like my coaches, my PE teachers who were coaches? They always wore the tracksuit up and down. Did you dress like that?
No, unfortunately not. I guess if I was able to afford a tracksuit,
Ah.
I would have worn one. But
Uh,
I don't think my salary was enough for me to wear a tracksuit.
I understand. I understand. uh,
But
uh,
I was very, before coming up, before graduation,
mhm.
there's something there's a they don't have it here, but in the British school system, you have a head boy and a head girl.
Yes, we
Yeah,
had
so
that.
I was a head boy, so which means I was actually in charge of slide enforcing the school rules,
Yes,
and
I
stuff.
was punctuality prefect.
Yeah, yeah. So you have a
So
class prefect, and then you have a head boy.
yeah,
Head boy.
for final year of secondary school, I was they selected, like, they select a whole bunch of students to be in the final year to be prefects. And yeah, I was selected for punctuality. I was happy at first until I realized that I had to show up earlier than everybody to catch all the latecomers. So
Yeah.
that was part of my job. And then yeah, I just interviewed a classmate of mine recently, and he was reminding me, and I was like, oh, I forgot about all that. And yeah, it brought back memories. But yes, so, but yeah, that's another way of, because I think in Nigeria we just called, if you were in each class, you were just called the class prefect,
Yes.
and then when you got to final year, then that's when you were appointed
You become a head
head
boy.
boy and head girl.
Yeah,
If it's a
head
mixed
boy.
school, there's head boy, head girl. If it's just if it's a segregated school by gender, then it's head girl only, and then head boy only. So yeah.
Yeah, it was a co-ed, so there was a head boy and there was
Yeah,
a head girl.
yeah, I was co-ed also. Yeah, so
Yes.
we got head boy and head girl, and then there's a whole bunch of other offices. I can't remember what the other prefects were called, but I just remembered mine being punctuality prefect, and then you had an assistant punctuality prefect, and yeah, that's conflict resolution. I think that's one of the
Yes.
classes that we should have taken, because yeah, there was.
Yeah, there's a lot of conflict resolution, right? Before it gets to the teacher, you actually are the one
Yeah.
who wants to settle all these differences and all the small arguments
Mm-hmm.
and all that.
Yeah,
So
that's like, yeah, that's a real time introduction to conflict resolution, but we didn't have that words in existence in our lives then. So nobody knew that we were practicing conflict resolution, because sometimes we'll handle it amicably, so it won't get out of hand. And then sometimes we get out of hand, and then it escalates to teachers, and it escalates to the principal, and
the
then
principal,
yeah,
yes,
and then
yes.
yeah, so yeah, but it was something that, it was, if we had the right words, like people are, like, we knew, understood that this is stuff that we're dealing with, management, because it involves all that. I think a lot of people wouldn't have, down the line, people wouldn't have considered themselves not having the experience that they felt they don't have, because it's something that I always bring up when I'm talking to, I'm on a Nigerian panel, and I'm like, yeah, when they say you just graduated from Nigerian college, and they say, oh, we need 5 years experience, all of you have that 5 years experience, because when you start adding all that stuff you did in secondary school, even your community, if you're in your church or your mosque, if you volunteer there, add all that together, you have the 5 years experience. Then add your school, yeah, 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 5 years experience easily.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
already got it. But nobody tells you to add your being a head boy or head girl as experience. We don't add that because it's not considered a skill. But you are exhibiting a skill set there.
Yeah, that's a skill set. It's actually a unique skill
Yeah,
set.
it is.
But because these are your peers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And part of what I had to do was, which when you look back at it, having grown and being a parent. So one of the school rules was not to wear flip flops,
Yes. Yes.
flip flops or sandals. Well, there are some families who can't afford tennis shoes or
Yep.
shoes, and so maybe the kids could only afford flip flops. So mind you, so a student wears flip flops to school, and it's your job as a head boy to actually confiscate those flip flops and said, "Hey, you're breaking the school rules." So
Mm-hmm.
now now that this this student is walking around school barefoot.
True. I did that.
So it's a fine balance, striking a balance between, um, enforcing the rules and still maintain some kind of not making enemies.
Oh yeah. I'm pretty sure there's some people who consider me enemies to this day. Because when I had my classmate when I interviewed my classmate recently, and he was giving an example of the day I was chasing someone around. I was like, I can't recall that person, but it just brought back memories. And there were some who, after I graduated, we kissed and made up, and
Yes, yes.
everything seemed to be fine. And then, um, oh, is there an echo? Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm hearing an echo. That's why I was just checking. Oh, you have an headset? Okay. Yeah, that will help. All righty. Okay. Oh, just a second. Yeah, I did it the first time and I wasn't sure. I was like, wait. Oh yeah, I was writing down a point. So luckily, I can build it up from there because it's something that I never even thought about. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um.
So there's no echo anymore, right?
No, I don't hear any echo. Do you
Okay.
hear me loud and clear?
Yes, yes.
All right. That's good.
Sorry, I was using speakers and I forgot there would be echoes. So I
Oh,
don't know if
that's fine.
okay,
It went on for a little bit, so yeah, that was good.
okay.
So yeah, holding office as in school is as a kid qualified as a skill builder, and yeah, it's something that Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's one or two people who may have something against me for how I handled it back then. Which, hey, I'm sorry if I let the power get to my head. Okay, yeah, well, everybody, I did overdo it. I'm not gonna lie, I overdid it sometimes. But I know I did not when it came to like something like enforcing the no flip flops. Because as the guy who had to catch people who came late, if you came late
Yeah, I came late, yeah.
and I caught you with flip flops, yeah, I'll seize it from you. But at the end of school, you could get it back from me.
Yes,
Because
yes.
what am I going to do with your flip flops? I can't take it home. I don't want it. And your feet was obviously smaller than mine. I don't even want to put the same. I don't want to put my feet in your flip flops in the first place. So no, I gave people back their flip flops. If you wore sneakers, you weren't supposed to wear sneakers. I was at a public school, so yeah, you weren't
Okay.
supposed to do all that. So it was come pick it up. But a lot of people were mad at me. A lot of juniors were mad at me for doing that. I made you pick up trash. That's the
Trash,
way with
yeah,
all the litters that had been
yeah.
littered around. That's how you keep the compound clean. Yeah, so we did stuff like that. So there were juniors obviously cussing at me. If you showed up and your uniform was dirty,
Dirty,
yeah,
yeah.
I had to give you some manual labor to do. I did that. If your like your zipper, like I don't know but I knew
Button,
people couldn't afford
missing,
it.
yeah, missing buttons.
Yeah, missing buttons. For the boys, the boys, that's the one I couldn't really. That made me feel bad. Like the boys, their shorts, the zipper had broken, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, come on, man! I'll use my pocket change that I had. That's the one. There's no way I was coming to school with a broken zipper. There's no way
zipper,
I would show up to school with that. But there were some
yeah.
kids who didn't care, and they would still show up to school. But I remember paying for somebody once because I just looked at him. He
Yeah,
was a junior that I liked too, and I was like, well, "Come on, what happened?" And he said he didn't have money to fix it. So I gave him. I think I had some change on me, and I just said, "Do take go get it fixed. Go get it fixed."
yeah.
But
We were lucky because my dad was a a tailor by trade.
ah,
So, so all we had to do, so you know how people would say, so somebody has, what is it called? Um, I forgot the
the,
word.
this
Uh, not custom made, but like if you're wealthy and you go to a designer suit or whatever, right?
mm-hmm.
Designer clothes. So I also, we'll go to the market, you buy the cloth and just bring it, and my dad would take the measurements,
Oh, the
and
material.
if yeah, if you want a pair of jeans,
Uh
we
huh.
make jeans,
Yeah.
and depending on how many pockets you want, you say that I want pockets on the side, on the front. You have as many.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so we were lucky in that. So I actually never. That's one of my regrets that I never learned how to sew. I mean, I can hem, sew buttonholes, and that.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to do that, but being a typical naughty boy, uh,
Hmm.
I was like, that's for girls.
Yeah, yeah. You look at it, and my dad always would tell us, "Oh, you guys think just school is the most important thing? You also need to learn a trade." And if I had that trade in the United States, I would be banking. I have your own dry cleaning dry
I know.
cleaning business,
It it it, it
alteration.
it's yeah. I mean, it was later on that I think, yeah, around when I was 18, it was there was a guy that my sister owned a fashion designing business, and herself and her husband owned it. And
Hmm.
there was these two guys that they hired. Those are like the two most skillful people I've ever met in my life. They're from northern Nigeria.
Uh-huh.
I've never seen people anywhere in the world as skillful as these two men. One of them, Jamal, I can't remember his colleague's name. Jamal will literally look at you. He can just look at you and do embroidery of your face onto an
Oh wow.
outfit.
Oh really?
He can do
That
that.
is
I've never seen anybody that
wow.
can do that like this guy. The only
Wow.
thing, Jamal's
Wow.
problem is just women. His whole money
Ah.
goes to women.
Well, all his hard-earned money.
That's it. That guy
Goes
has
to
gone. Jamal has his story. The stories he has told me, he has gone up to Libya with embroidery. People have taken him to
wow,
Libya to go do embroidery. They've taken him to South Africa. They've taken, like, this guy.
wow,
He worked with my when he worked for my study 24 hours, 24/7. They were just making clothes, making clothes. They go sell the clothes in South Africa. He was just embroidery, 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 embroidery. They'll bring photos for him, and he would just sit down, look at the photo, and put the picture embroidered on an outfit, embroidered. And I
embroidery,
was just like,
wow.
wow. That's when I was looking at it. I was like, wow, this is skills.
Yeah, it is
That's the
skill.
first time. So he was the first person that made me start to put on traditional outfit, because
Yeah,
I used to, like, even now I still wear a lot of t-shirts, which is,
yeah.
it just comes natural to me. But right from childhood I used to be like that. But Jamal looked at me one day and said, the day my sister hired him, he
Hmm.
told my sister that, how can you have a brother in this house and you're a fashion designer and he doesn't wear your creations?
Yeah, yeah,
And my dad's
yes,
like, you're
yes.
wasting your time. This guy won't wear anything. You don't go make something expensive. You can't waste good material on this guy. He said, Madam, this guy loves wearing jeans. I can make something that he will wear, and he will bring customers for you. Anywhere he goes, he'll bring customers for you.
So something
And
you can wear with a pair of jeans.
yeah, he said that, and
Yeah.
I was laughing. And then he made this outfit with kente. We added kente to like a brocade.
Yeah.
Pink brocade. And I was like, pink? I'm going to wear pink? What the hell wrong with you, man? Man, he said, just try it. Man, I wore this stuff one day we're living in Ibadan then. I wore it to Cocoa House, which is like the highbrow place where all the rich kids came. And I wore it there, and people, where did this come from? Man, where you buy this? How much? People were like, all these rich kids who never talk to me in their life. So they're stepping up to me. They want to know. That's how I brought business for my sister. I was like, start wearing it. Jamal, make more for him, make more. I started wearing, like I became a walking billboard. Anywhere I go, people are like, man, what, bro? You, who are you? I want to know you. I want to know, like, I was like, what? You mean this? I didn't realize people add value like it.
Yeah.
But that guy, I don't know, the last time I saw him, he was in Lagos. The person that hired him, they had a security guard outside of. I had to lie about why I was there.
Wow.
Because people were fighting to get him. So they're poaching him. It's like coming to.
Wow.
It's like, and I'm like, do they even pay him properly? Do they pay him the money he's worth? But it's like they just keep him there, like to make stuff. And I was like, damn, that's the first time I started seeing value in tailoring, in something related to tailoring. Because I used to be like, this is not. There's no money in this. There's no money. But Jamal, as soon as he just sees one beautiful woman, hey, that money gone. That was just his problem. Because if I bring that guy to the United States now, that guy. Oh man, that guy is it. Oh man, that guy literally. Somebody, I think someone came to the house and made a bet with him, and said, Raf always claims you can look at somebody and embroider their face on an outfit. He said, yeah, that's not hard. He said, that's not hard. And I don't know where he learned it. It's not like he had any formal education, but it's like a natural gift for him. But the guy, it just pains me when I talk about it. Like, man, the woman was timing me because before they finally allowed me to go in, go see him at that place. The madam came and stood because she hadn't seen me before, but it was his former boss was trying to send a message to him. They wanted to take him to South Africa. So they knew that the former boss can't show up there. The woman knows the former boss's face, so they had to use me. Because I wasn't living in Lagos, so it's like the one knew everybody. So I showed up there. Security guard drilled me like a job interview, and said, "Okay, this one is safe. All right, come in." The madam came. Who are you? Asked me questions right, left, back. What did you do yesterday and all this? I was like, "What is going on here?" She was screaming and all that. And then Jamal noticed, and then Jamal came. He was like, "Oh, madam, let him be. This is my boy. It's my boy. I haven't seen. How did you find me?" He said, "Come." So I whispered to him. He's like, okay, let's go. The madam was like, where are you going? Jamal was like, madam, it's okay.
I'll be back.
Don't worry. It's my brother here. His mom said, but it doesn't look like it's from your tribe. He said, don't worry about it. I was like, wow, Jamal, this place is tight. The guy had a gun. The security guy had a gun. That's how they were protecting this guy. And I brought him to his former boss, and I was like, yep, that's the first time I saw they got someone with skill. When he was working for my sister, he was free to go anywhere he wanted, everything.
So, man, he has very invaluable skill.
Oh yeah. But before we go further, let's take a quick break. And when we return back, we're going to focus on your arrival in the United States, and we will take it up from there. Hi everyone, your host Raphael Harry here. I can't believe we've gone past our 1 year anniversary of doing White Label American. I've had the privilege of speaking with some amazing people, sharing their modern day immigrant stories. And you've allowed this Nigerian immigrant to share parts of his immigrant journey through this podcast. Also, one of my goals of this podcast is breaking down artificial walls that keep people from getting to understand each other. Based on your wonderful feedback over the last year, I think we have done a decent job in breaking down some of those walls. We would like to continue and expand on this mission but we need your help. I've had an amazing time creating and producing episodes for this show largely on my own. We have a lot of ideas for new and exciting content to expand upon the mission, but we need direct support from you, our listener, which is why we have created a White Label American Patreon page where you can make a one-time donation or become a sustaining contributor, where you can get access to exclusive content, help me interview upcoming guests by submitting questions, and even have the chance to sit down with me for a one-on-one conversation, either virtually or in studio. So if this podcast means something to you, and if you really love this show, think about becoming a sustaining contributor and donating by going to patreon.com/White Label American POD. Thanks for listening and for the privilege of your company. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. So, before you arrive in America, how did your coming to America, how did it happen? When did you decide you're moving to America?
Actually, the first time I came to the United States was in 1992. And I actually came for a conference. It was the Baha'i World Congress. That's another story. I'm a Baha'i by
Yes.
religion.
Mm-hmm.
It was a World Congress. So there were Baha'is from all over the world converged in New York City.
Oh,
Um,
my city.
yes, in New York City in 1992. And so that actually was the first time I ever traveled to the United States, even outside of, well, I went to Senegal, but Senegal is considered Gambia.
Yeah, it's
We're the
the
same
Gambia
people.
is literally like it's almost
It's
like
inside
Lesotho and
South
Eswatini
Africa,
is
yeah.
inside South Africa. That's how the Gambia is in
Yes, we're
Senegal.
surrounded on all sides except to the ocean. And we actually speak the same language,
Yeah.
Gambia and Senegal. We have cousins across the border and
Mhm.
uncles and aunts. But so it was 1992, November, came to the World Congress in New York City. And so the we are the airplane airplane of aircraft it touched down. I think it was early in the morning, probably 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. And the first thing that I noticed was an overcast sky. Like it was cloudy, and I was
Mhm.
like, "Wow, this is gloomy. This is depressing." Because growing up in Gambia, the only time it's cloudy is when it's about to
Rain,
rain.
yeah.
And it was overcast. So the guy came and picked us up from the airport. A friend of a friend picked us up from the airport and was driving. And I think it was November, right before Thanksgiving. I think it snowed. There was ice on the road. And the next thing you know, I think he hit a patch of ice and the vehicle spun around. And I wasn't aware of what's going on. And right now, if it happened to me riding with someone, I'll probably have a heart attack. But I guess when you're younger, you think you're invincible. So we
Yeah.
made it. We made it to the hotel, and the hotel was it's called the Edison Hotel, I think. Off of close to Broadway. I don't know what street it
Okay.
was, but there was Broadway around there.
That
Edison
sounds
Hotel.
familiar.
Yes. And so that was my first time here, and I stayed for about the congress or conference was just a week, but there was also this young guy. He was he in 1988, 89. He came to Gambia, Baha'i youth. He came to do a year of service. So I
Okay.
partnered with him. We lived in the country, in the village, teaching adult literacy. So he and his family were down there. So he's like, hey, since we're all here, let's go, come stay with me and my family. So we drove from New York to Cincinnati, and I stayed with them for about 3 months.
Oh wow.
And then I went back to Gambia. So when I went back to Gambia, people thought I lost my mind. And they were asking my brother because then I was a school teacher. I had gone to the teachers college. I was a qualified teacher. I was teaching middle school and high school. And I went back to my teaching job, and people would be pointing at me when I walked down the street. They said, "This guy is a fool. He went all the way to the United States and came back."
Ah,
So when I came back, I actually had a return ticket, right? So my friend Kevin bought me a round trip ticket, and he said, "Now, when you get," so I had a multiple entry visa. It
yeah.
was a visitor's visa, a multiple entry. Said, "Well, if you want to come back, just come back." So when I got back, I already made up my mind I wasn't coming back. So I had to hide the ticket from my siblings because they kept hounding me. "Why did you come back?" And I know if people knew I had a round trip ticket, they'll probably chase me out of town. And my younger brother, bless his heart, he lives in England. He's in the UK. He's lived there as long as I've lived in the United States. And he was like, "Man, if it were me, I would live under the bridge and not come back." People don't know how hard it is to live under
No,
a doggone bridge. You
I'm
hear me?
telling you, people don't know. Just it's easier to say it
Yeah.
until you have to
uh,
live it, and then it's like, woo, this is
exactly.
yeah.
So that was the first time I came here. And I think one of the questions was about culture shock, right?
Yeah, I was
So
gonna ask that. Yeah.
for me, it wasn't actually a culture shock, but well, it was a surprise because the reason why it wasn't so much of a culture shock was because my high school teacher was from the United States, and I became best friends with the son. So I was always hanging around them, So I had an idea of some of the stuff in the United States. But one of the things was that well, the first thing I noticed, I don't know if now it probably still would be the same in New York City. It was loud, okay,
Yeah.
and there were also constantly cabs, taxi drivers just blowing their horn, bum, 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 bum. And I was like, wow, this is something else. And the vehicles were big, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you're used to it. They're not so big, but the first thing you noticed was the people were big, the vehicles were big. So that was a surprise. But one of the things that I wanted I tell people this story all the time, right? So this guy picked us up from the airport, dropped us at the front of the hotel, and they called them. Well, I didn't know the name at the time, but bellhops or whatever.
Yeah.
So came, picked up luggage, took you up this elevator to the room, right? So my first culture surprise was tipping.
Ah.
So now when I look back, having lived here for 25 years, I was like, oh man, I felt so terrible. This older guy took my luggage upstairs, and I didn't tip him because I didn't know there was any such thing called tipping.
Yeah.
And so in the hotel, there were, some Africans. This guy, I roommate with this guy from Cameroon, and there were also some other, brothers from the continent who came to this Congress. And so in the morning, we'll go down to have breakfast, right? Okay, you're down there, breakfast. You have people waiting on you, right? You're like, okay, I want this off the menu, I want this off the menu. And they wait on you. You eat, you get up and leave, no tip. So now when I look back, I was like, man, they must have been like those darn ignorant people were waiting on them and they wouldn't even leave a tip. But those are some of the cultural things that people are not aware of, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
people may think that you're just being stingy,
Mm-hmm.
you're not being.
Yeah.
And so the first time I knew about tips was actually, so I was living, in Cincinnati, staying in Cincinnati with my friend Kevin. So we decided to drive to Chicago with one of his friends. So we went there to Chicago, spent the night. We were actually visiting the Baha'i House of Worship there. And so we went to a restaurant and we ordered pizza. We were eating, and everybody got up, and I was the last person to get up. And I saw money on the table. And I thought my friend actually forgot to take his money. So I grabbed the money and went after him. I'm like, hey, Kevin. You left your money on the table. I said,
Ah,
now, so that's for the person waiting on it. That's a tip. And that
ah,
was my first introduction to tips.
yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, because in certain cultures, somebody does something for you and you
Yeah,
give them money, they'll feel offended, you
that's
know?
true. That's true.
And
That's true.
and then the second time I came, okay, so I don't know if you have a follow-up question to that. But then I went back to Gambia after staying for, 3 months. So I went back to my teaching job. And so I taught for 2 years and then said, okay, now, because at the time there was no university in Gambia. So I've had the highest level of education. In Gambia, you go to a teacher's training college or agricultural training,
Yeah.
you get some things that equivalent to associate's degree.
Okay, diploma.
And that
Yeah.
was it. So if you wanted further training, you either go to Nigeria, Sierra Leone, or Ghana. So I applied for a scholarship to go to Nigeria. Of course, I didn't get, they didn't give me one. So I said, okay, hey, maybe now's the time to try to go to the United States. And so in '96, I came here the second the second time in '96. Um, that's so when I came back the second time, uh, there was not so much of, well, so in Cincinnati, you can imagine, I'll backtrack. When I was in Cincinnati, so it was November, right?
Yeah.
So in Gambia, never seen snow. Get out, and there's like 2 feet of snow or something. And
Woo.
then my friend's dad, God bless his, he'd be like, well, you guys, we can't drive out of the driveway. We gotta go shovel snow. And here was I, used to 70-degree temperatures or 75. All
Woo.
of a sudden, this is like in the minus whatever. I'm out there like trying to shovel the snow from the driveway so we can leave the house. So that was a shock, snow. But yeah, so the second time I came, I landed in Texas.
You were like, this is a different planet. This is it. I'm not leaving.
So yeah, so I came to Texas, and I came to Texas, yeah, in '96, and so when I got here, it was summer, right?
Hmm.
So it's hot, and Texas hot is different from Gambia or the rest of Africa hot. It's
Yes.
hot and humid,
When I
which
tell
is
people,
bad.
people be arguing with me when I tell them. I'm like, yeah, I've experienced hot in Nigeria. I've experienced hot in the Middle East. I experienced hot in Texas. I experienced hot in Virginia. I experienced hot in New York. I don't want to do Texas hot anymore.
Yeah, Texas hot is not the same as any hot anywhere. So I got here, it was August of '96, and it was hot. And I said, is this America?
Exactly.
because now I'm comparing it. The first time I came, it was winter. So I was in Cincinnati, it was
Hmm.
cold. I was in New York for a week and it was cold. And all of a sudden, it was hotter than where I just left. And I was like, this cannot be the United States.
It's a different country. Trust me.
And well, yeah, so that was another shock because most of us, when we watch movies, Hollywood movies in Gambia, I think a lot of them are shot in New York or somewhere. People have trench coats, they have scarves,
Yeah.
and you think everywhere in the United States it's like that. So you land in in the middle of summer in Texas in August, you question, is this really the United States? But
Just before I arrived in 2007,
mhm,
there was a heat wave, I think in 2006,
mhm.
and I was in Port Harcourt, and there were people who were talking. People, well, how these people? How much heat is killing these people? How people dying in America? Yeah, my brother's telling me that there's heat wave in Virginia. Where is
Mhm.
that? Where my mom is at, and like it's heat wave in New York. I'm like, how much? Man, there's no heat there. What kind of heat are these people? I'm like, this, what they're calling heat will probably be like air condition for us. And we were like, when I arrive and my first summer comes, woo, man, where I'm staying at, there's no air condition. Man, I'm almost naked by the time summer. I'm like, what is this? What is this? This is heat. What kind of heat is this? How can America be this hot?
Hot,
How can people be
exactly.
surviving without air condition? What? I'm complaining. I was on a call to someone back home, and I'm complaining. He's like, Like, are you sure you're in America? I said, yes. I'm the one suffering right now. I can't put on clothes indoors. I can't put on clothes indoors. I can't.
I'm telling
They
you.
don't believe. Why you tell them, they don't believe you. They don't until they
No,
come experience it, and then it's like,
yeah,
woo. They're like,
it's
uh-huh.
hot.
Now, when you experience, like, well, you did not tell me that it was this hot. I was like, oh, so you thought I was making it up?
It is. It is.
Ah.
Oh, the other thing about cultural surprise.
Yeah.
So the second time I came in 1996, got married, and I was working at this electronics store, and this lady would offer me a ride home. I didn't have a car, right? And my wife at the time would be like, "Did you did you offer gas money?" I'm like, "Huh?" It's like, no, it's rude for people to give you a ride and you don't offer them gas money. I'm like, where I come from, when people say they're going to do something for you, they don't expect for you to.
Yeah.
So that was, I just thought I'll bring that up. So that
Yeah.
was another thing.
I, I
And
understand.
everybody listening, I do offer gas money. And, and I'm a generous tipper too. I tip.
But sometimes being a generous tipper can backfire. If you go to Europe now and then you want to tip, they'll be looking at you like, you forgot your money. The waiter will actually chase you in some
Yeah,
places. Like,
exactly.
you forgot your money. And
Exactly.
you're like, no, I'm trying to tip you. Like, no, I
Exactly.
don't need your tip. Ah.
Exactly.
So, quick question on your faith: is the Baha'i faith big in the Gambia?
Yeah, so the Baha'i faith is actually, um, and anywhere you go in the world, you'll find Baha'is.
I
So
know
it's
it's in Nigeria, but
yeah.
it's
In
probably
Gambia,
one of those that I didn't even take note of because Nigeria is
mhm,
so,
Pentecostal.
well, I would say Christian and Islam focused that
Yeah.
it's by mistake. Sometimes you just realize because they demonize every other thing,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
except when it's kind of like beneficial to not demonize it. Then it's like you get good, but it's like even I know Hari Krishna existed, but it
Hmm.
was the guy who was like the guru. He was very charismatic, so he used to put he bought a lot of airtime on TV.
Airtime on TV.
So that's how I got to know of Hari Krishna. Otherwise, I wouldn't even know that something existed. But Baha'i faith, I think it was by mistake. Yeah, I think when I don't know. I think I was a teenager, and
Mhm.
I went to visit somebody, or I don't know if I was one of the days I was able to sneak away from home or something, but I just happened to be with someone who I was in their neighborhood, and they took
Oh,
me through where the temple is at, but the
yeah.
way they described it, it sounded like, oh, these are bad people, kind of language that
Yeah.
they use. Because if you're not Christians or
Yeah.
Muslims, if you could be
Yeah.
Pentecostal, because Christians then now break up into Orthodox or
Pentecostal. Yeah.
Pentecostal. But it's
Hmm.
like, oh, these are one of those people. And that's how it now kind of stayed in my brain without realizing that it was in there. And then later on in life, oh, yeah, I've seen Baha'i before without,
Yes.
well,
Yes.
where did I see that? And I was like, oh, I saw their temple somewhere. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
yes. And then I'm like, oh, but yeah, then I realized, oh, yeah, the person said this was bad people, kind of.
Yeah,
And
like these are the lost
yeah,
people or infidels.
yeah, kind of
Okay.
thing. So I was just surprised when you mentioned in Gambia. I was like, oh, yeah, that's yeah. So I
Yeah,
remember because it wasn't like a surprise. It wasn't like the first time I've heard
heard it. Okay.
of Baha'i faith. Because yeah, but we have everything like in Nigeria. We do, but it just if you don't have political power behind you,
Yes, a lot of
yeah,
it.
a lot of it you're coming
It's mixed in
from.
with politics.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you're coming from. There's a big uphill battle for you. So.
Yeah, in Gambia, when I was living there in 25 years ago,
Mhm.
a lot of people knew about it, knew of it, knew about it. Because what we used to do also was we'll have something like a book stand, like in a busy intersection. We were
Yeah.
like, hey, do you want to hear this? Hey, do you want to hear this? And my friend that I mentioned, Kevin, who came to the Gambia to do a year of service in 88, 89, one of the things that we did was travel to a lot of schools back then. the body that administers the affairs of the Baha'i faith
Mm-hmm.
throughout the world. It's called the Universal House of Justice. They put out a publication called The Promise of World Peace.
Okay.
And the document actually outlines how humanity, the steps we can take to bring about peace, in the world, and so we would travel around and give, ask the principals, hey, can we just give a speech, not a speech, but have a conversation with the students about this document. And this document, we're not pushing religion, we're just pushing about ideas of how to bring about world peace, of course, based on the Baha'i teachings. But yeah, so
Okay.
now having left the Gambia all these years, I think actually it's more known now than it was back when I
Back
was
then.
there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think being that we have so many Christian and Islamic controlled foundation based schools. Yeah, they probably, if people from the Baha'i faith had tried to show up, they probably got turned back at most of those schools. Because yeah, I don't recall ever having any. Because I
No,
probably would have asked questions if people like that had showed up. In my,
yeah.
there would have been a lot of ignorant questions I would have asked, but
Oh no.
no, back then, because I was very hardcore, but I would have engaged, and then probably a lot of the cracks would have begun, earlier. But yeah, no, but I know that now that you say that, there's some images that are just coming back to my mind. So it's good that yeah, that's why I'm happy that I brought you on the podcast because
Yeah, so not to proselytize or whatever, but the images you were talking about, the Baha'i faith, you can look it up online, but it's about bringing about unity and world peace and love, and
mm-hmm,
that humanity, we're all the same. All religions are actually the same. They just come from. It's like going to elementary school, right? Your
yeah,
first teacher, second grade teacher, third grade teacher. So just because you went to second grade doesn't mean your first grade teacher was no good, right?
mm-hmm,
So we believe that all the messengers, Judeo-Christianity messengers, Abraham going through Krishna, Buddha, all this, Jesus, Muhammad, that they all brought the same message, really, if you look at it. People are the ones interpreting it differently, and that's why we have all, all this craziness going on. But if you look at the message itself, it's about love. Every religion has love in it.
mm-hmm.
So that's I don't know how we got got
No,
to
no, no.
that, but
That's fine.
yeah.
I'm the one that took us down that route, so it's
Okay.
okay. It's not on you. So, um, you are also a dad, and before you became a dad, you were married,
Mhm.
and to your ex-wife. And um, if you don't mind, did you meet your ex-wife over here, or did she come from the Gambia?
So I actually married the first Texan that kissed me.
That actually sounds like the title of a movie.
Of a movie, right? Yeah. So that's I tell people and they think it's a joke, but yeah. So I remember working in this department store, and and she I don't know what was going on, but she gave me a hug and kissed me, and the next thing you know, I said, "Man, I love this lady." I mean, she was nice lady.
Yeah.
But
Hey, for you to have ended up married, right?
and then now that I'm 54, right? I'm looking back. I was 29 at the time, and I was about to turn 30, and there was a sense of urgency, and I was like,
Mm,
I'm getting old.
yeah.
I actually need to get married. I'm getting old
Were,
now.
were there phone calls from back home like, how long we're gonna wait for you to get married or what?
No, no, they
It
were
was just you who was
it was just me.
putting the pressure on yourself.
Yes, that I was getting ready to turn 30, and I needed to do something. I was getting old.
Yeah, I understand that too because I once put that pressure on myself and almost
Almost,
came
yeah.
close. Luckily, the person snapped me out of it, and then I was
So,
like, I'm not interested anymore. And then I met someone. I was like, I'm not gonna do it. So I'm not gonna settle down. Then I met who I'm with today. And then he changed.
yeah, actually, I remember when I met you in 2013. you were not quite ready yet. So over the years, through Facebook, and I said, "Oh, he settled down. Okay, he must have met, he must have met somebody really special."
I tell you, people don't believe. My woman, she finds it hard to believe sometimes that I was
Yes,
that person who was like, yeah, I said, I don't care about having kids. I don't care about, I said, why do I want to have a kid?
yes, exactly,
And some
exactly.
people are like, wow, I don't, you're so into your daughter's life. Like, I don't believe you were ever that person who was like, you were not going to settle down and have a child. I was like, have you met me? You haven't met me. You haven't met that person. That's why.
uh,
So now that you're a father and
mhm.
being a dad in America, how has that changed who you are today?
A lot. There are actually a lot of challenges. So, so from my first union, I have a 22-year-old daughter. She still stays with she still lives with me. And then I had a partner and from that union, we have four children, two boys and two girls. The oldest is 16, just turned 16. The other one is getting ready to turn 15.
Wow,
The other one is
great
getting ready
ages.
to, yeah, the other one is getting ready to turn 14, and the other. So it actually is different because when we were growing up. A friend of mine, we were talking, and we were like, oh, as kids, our parents knew we were around, but they were not really engaged with us.
Hmm.
You get up in the morning, you go play soccer, lunchtime, your mom hollers at you, come eat lunch, you come eat lunch, then you disappear again, come
Yeah.
home. And sometimes your dad even confuses your name with your sibling.
I know that one well.
So here it's different because you have to engage the children engage you. They come home from school, they want to talk about their school, they want to talk about their experiences, they ask you questions. So and then now being a parent, you look back at your dad and you're like, wow, this is what my dad went through. Just
Hmm.
the whole pressure of having to, the whole pressure of providing for your family,
Yeah.
keeping them safe and all that. Yes.
Mm. Yeah, that's why I've said this on the podcast before, and there was a day I was having a conversation with my neighbor from balcony to balcony, and I told him that yeah, probably a few years ago I wouldn't be this person, but since I had my daughter, I
Hmm.
kind of have sympathy or maybe empathy for the people who you know abandon children or
Yeah.
and, who are overwhelmed
Overwhelmed. Yeah.
and can't and give up the child and they can't do it. Some abandon the
Mm.
child at a place where they feel they can get care, or they just give the child up for adoption. I'm not saying the ones who kill the children, but even the ones
Yeah.
who do something drastic, I'm not recommend saying I support them. I don't know that, but I kind of have empathy for them because there's a lot of us who we went into the there's no the preparation is never there,
No. No.
and
No.
it's like the messaging is always like it's easy. Well, once the child comes, everything will be easy, and then it hits you, and then that's when a whole different emotional setting is opened in your brain and in your body and your system, and you start to see like, wow, our people were dealing with some stuff, and you can understand how some people mentally changed, how some people were no longer as friendly as they were, or how some people
Yeah.
became somebody else after they had
Hmm.
children. Because when they say, well,
Children.
people change after they have a child, it's not always about financial or just physically, but the mentally it changes
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
and
Yes. Yes.
if that,
Children actually. Not to cut you off. I
yeah.
tell people. I said, I've been around a little a little while,
Hmm.
and I can tell you that when before as a couple before children. And after you have a child, it's always different afterwards.
Yeah.
And then then you really have to work on the relationship
True.
because now the focus is not on either of you and it's on the child, and you tend to forget each other. And So yes, you're right. So it's hard, and let me just bring this real quickly. So the four children, they're all now getting to be teenagers. Um, so with their mom, she had other issues, including mental health issues,
Mm.
and so I actually every time she had a child. As soon as the child comes home, I actually took over. So I gave them their first bath.
Yeah.
And if I'm telling you, of all the four children, I woke up every single night, changed a diaper, and fed them.
Mm.
She never had to do that. And so you look at that because this was a person I don't think I was hardcore like it, but when I met my first wife before we had a child, and she was 33 and she never pregnant, never had a child. And I was one of those people who said, well, I don't care if I have a child, okay, well,
Yeah.
good. If I don't, but now when I look back at where I am today, I really love children.
Hmm.
you know I really love, and I don't know what my life would have been without children. children.
That's why it shows. It shows in how your relationship is with your children. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I love children, but like when you met me, and I've always had relationship with children, but I was like, nah, I don't want to have one of my own. That was just me until I was finally ready to have my own,
Yeah.
and it happened, and I was just fortunate that it happened that way. And good thing, I don't know what would have happened if that first time I tried to push a marriage, if
Hmm.
that had come. I don't know the type of person I was back then. Yeah, I probably would have been. It would have been too much weight for me. It would have been too much weight for that person. I would probably would have just buried myself in work and been showing up.
Yeah,
When
not
the child,
true.
yeah, go to work when the child is before the child wakes up, then come back when the child is asleep. That kind of thing. I know someone who has something like that going. Great job, and one day he finally broke down, complained about that to me, and I felt for the brother when he finally,
Yeah.
because it's a great job he has, fantastic job. That the way we talk about it back home, like
Hmm.
this is the kind of the son, this is the type of son you want to show families. This is my son, this is my
Son,
son,
yeah,
and
yeah,
but
yeah.
that son is like I haven't seen my daughter for like 2 years.
Wow.
I don't haven't I'm not seeing my daughter grow, and he's like you are
Yeah, and
seeing
then
your daughter grow.
you miss out a lot
Yeah.
because those are fun times and fun when they're beginning to speak and
Mm-hmm.
trying to express themselves, show
Oh
their
yeah.
little personalities.
Oh yeah. So before I'm gonna start to wrap it up because
Okay.
you've given me a lot of your time, but I can't go out without asking. You're involved in two. I have to ask about two important things.
Hmm.
You work a lot in the IT field,
Yes.
and how did you get into that field? Seeing your
Okay.
background, you didn't your fish, in the Gambia, you didn't sound like someone who was playing with computers back then.
No, no,
And then,
no.
you come to the United States. So how did you get into that field for those who are listening who might not have
Uh,
an idea of computers or IT right now?
so I didn't grow up with computers. So remember, my friend, who I told you that the mom was from here,
Yes.
and she was our English teacher in high school, and the dad is from Iraq. And so they are Baha'is. They actually introduced me to the Baha'i faith, by the way.
Yeah.
So we were friends. And in 87, which sounds like a long time ago, so he had an Apple computer and he would play games,
Mm-hmm.
and that's actually how I learned to type. People look at me and they're surprised. This is this older African man, like typing fast with using all 10 fingers, and that's how I learned how to. He taught me how to type, shooting stuff down or whatever, looking at the key, press a certain key, and that's how I learned how to type. So yes, I went to a teacher's college, became a teacher, and after that, I never messed with computers. They didn't use one. I remember as a school teacher, we had a computer lab and we had to enter our grades in. And I would be terrified. of putting my grades in the computer because I would think I'll mess up the computer itself if I made a mistake. Okay. So I came here in '96, and you go to any college in this country, the first thing you do is say, okay, you have a computer class, right?
Yeah.
To learn Microsoft Word, Office, Microsoft Office, Word, PowerPoint, Access, and Excel. And I'm telling you, I used to be so stressed out doing those assignments because I'll be in the computer lab. The same thing. I think if I made a mistake on a spreadsheet, I actually would mess up the machine itself. I would be very stressed out. And I eventually got over that. So I said, okay, so this is an application. Then I started saying, hey, I actually want to know what's inside that box. I know whatever is inside that box is what's projecting what we're seeing. I want to know what's inside that box. So I went to another community college in Dallas, El Centro, and I took a computer hardware class. Around that time, I started working at Fry's Electronics, which was an electronics, computer store.
Yeah.
That's it, sold computer parts. And back in the mid to late '90s, the rage was building your own computer.
Hmm.
So I started working at this computer store, and then I said, okay, so inside this box are parts that work together to produce what you see on the screen. So I was very much interested in computer hardware. So I learned the computer parts. I was selling them. I learned how to. I actually built my first computer in 1998, and I was so excited about it.
Wow.
People who use computers now, back then, if you have a 6.5 gigabytes hard drive on a computer, that's a lot of space. That's a big machine. So now I see iPhones and all these, cell phones having 128 gigs on a tiny thing that you carry in your pocket. So that's how far we've come in 20 years, right?
Yeah.
But that's how I started, in IT. So I was always the type of person when I wanted to learn something, I just like go wholeheartedly in. So I read a lot of books. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of books, and then I built my computer, and then it became a hobby. So I'll tell my friends, hey, if you buy the parts, I'll build a computer for you, and it went from there.
Wow.
And then I got fired from a lot of jobs in this country, by the way. So I got fired from Fry's Electronics. And then I started doing tech support. And back then, it was the rave. People were just getting online. There was
Yeah.
America Online, AOL. There was there were all these other companies. And getting online back in the day was using dial-up.
Hmm.
Okay, you take a phone line, plug it on a modem behind a computer, and it dials, and then you screeches and all that, and then there's a handshake, and then you finally connect, and then you're online. Somebody calls your home phone, it knocks you offline, and you get upset. You try to dial back in to get online. There was no Wi-Fi,
Ah.
and so I did tech support for a number of years, 2, 3 years, and that's when I went to DeVry. So I was like, okay, I wanted to be a networking person, putting computers together, building networks and stuff,
Hmm.
hardware kind of person. And then after college, I just graduated from DeVry, but by the way, I started in 2001 and I graduated in 2019.
Yeah,
And that's
congratulations. Congratulations. Hey, I know someone who still hasn't graduated. I don't know when he started, but yeah, it's
uh,
hey,
so
you,
yeah,
you made it to the finish line.
I
So
made it to the finish line. So all these years. But when I was at DeVry, I found out I took all these programming classes and all this, and I found out I was actually very good with databases. Those were the only classes aside from networking. Programming classes was SQL or SQL or whatever relational databases. And I said, hey, maybe that's what I should do for a living,
hmm.
and that's what I'm doing now. But it's been a journey from selling computer parts, building computers to doing, what I'm doing right now.
So do you still build computers?
No, so I was talking to a friend of mine. This was about 10 years ago. He was from Nigeria. He's since passed. So he's like, "Do you build computers?" I said, "Ah, no, I don't build computers. I do programming and stuff." He started laughing at me. He said, "Oh, it's like the person who's a tailor," and then all of a sudden said, "Oh, I'm not a tailor. I'm actually a designer or something. You're doing the same thing, right?" But so building
Uh,
computers these days, I don't know if people do it, but it's not such a big thing now as
yeah.
it was back then
Hmm.
because computer parts are very cheap. Back then, you buy the parts and then you build it and then you feel proud that you actually was custom made and but nowadays if your computer breaks, it's easy to just junk it, throw it away and go buy another one because you can get a laptop for $300. Back
Yeah,
then it was
even cheaper. That's true.
yeah, even cheaper. Back then was $1,500 would be the starting.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. The first one I bought was almost, yeah, it was about $1,300.
yeah.
Yeah.
So building computers, I think it's like a dying hobby. There are very few people who do it these days.
Mm.
So the answer to the question is no, I haven't, but I would love to teach my kids just to have an idea of what's inside the machine that you're using. That
Yeah.
there's a part called a processor, and there's a hard drive, and there's RAM, and there's a motherboard. That everything is connected to.
So, uh, what advice will you give to a young person who's interested in going into your field?
IT is actually very interesting. There's the when people introduce me sometimes, they'll say, "Oh, this is Nalas. He knows computers, or he's a computer, whatever." And I'm like, "There's so much that I don't know." So if you find what you're passionate about, just stick to it. And one of the things I tell people, like in IT, and I'm actually following the same advice now. You can know things, but it's like math, right?
Yes.
You have to keep practicing. You keep
Mm.
practicing. Even if you're an athlete, if you take so many jump shots a day, you become better at shooting the ball from whatever range, right?
Yes.
So yes, if you find something you love, there's so many fields in IT. If you find something you love, just stick to it, um, and just keep at it. Read as much as you can, practice as much as you can. We're actually fortunate now that there's so much information and tutorials online, YouTube, that you can basically teach yourself a
That's true.
lot of things. Yes.
That's true. So, last serious question.
Hmm.
Why is volunteering important to Nalas?
I actually I love helping, and I actually I'll tell you this. One time, this was in 2014. My kids were in elementary school, and I had a chance to work from home most of the time, like 4 days out of the week. And I actually would pick them up. We had a minivan, and parents who actually would go to work and stuff, I'll go pick up their children, take them to school, and my kids were like, "Dad, man, you take us all over the place to pick up these kids and stuff." And I would tell them that when you are gifted with stuff, it's not just for you, it's also to use it for the betterment of other people or to help other people. So that's why I love volunteering.
Mm.
So if I have gifts and talents, they are not just for me. And I believe I've been entrusted with those gifts and talents so I can use them to help other people, you know.
Awesome. So, now that we've knocked out those two questions, let's
Hmm.
jump into the lighter side of things to wrap
Hmm.
it. We're coming to the end now, the official end.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
we can't end this without coming to the fun questions of,
Hmm.
so which one should we do first? Okay, let's go with food.
I
Where
actually,
does
uh
your favorite cuisine come from and what is it?
so I picked this one deliberately
Hmm.
because I've had this discussion with my brothers and sisters from Nigeria.
Okay.
So I said, let me just put this down because I want to also have a discussion with with you about. So I so I put it down as Benachin. So we call it Benachin.
Benachin.
Benachin, yes.
Hmm.
So you would call it jollof rice.
Ah, wow. Wow, we
So we
got something that changed the game now.
Yeah, so we call it benachin in Gambian Senegal or Senegalese, depending if it's fish. If it's made with fish, they call it chebujin or whatever. But we call it benachin, and benachin just means one pot, right? So basically, the food is made in one pot. You can fry your chicken
Oh,
or fry whatever, toss the chicken out, and then use the same gravy to, to put the rice in and cook the rice in, right? So it's one pot. So that's what Benetton means. So I tell them and I said, hey, we actually make the best Benetton or jollof rice. And my friends would tell me, no, it's not. Our jollof rice is better than your Benetton. And I'm like, hmm, I don't think so. And then I said, hey, do you know where jollof rice is from? Oh, it's from Nigeria. I said, no, it's not
no,
from
it's not.
Nigeria.
It's
Okay,
not.
so you and I are not going to get in that argument. So you are.
Yeah, I found out like 2 years ago that yeah, it was a Nigerian cooking historian that was on a show talking. She's like,
Uh-huh.
Nigerians, we just like to claim stuff. Like, do we even know where jollof rice come from? Like, we just like shouting on the internet. It's like, do we know the name? What Nigerian tribe calls
It's jollof.
something jollof? What if we can name the tribe?
Yeah.
And she's like, but she Senegal. It comes from Senegal. I said,
Yeah,
what?
Senegal, Gambia, yes.
She said, Wolof, Wolof.
Wolof, yes, the Wolof
I
people.
said, oh
Yeah.
wait, I know Wolof. I've heard of Wolof before. I know somebody who's Wolof. Wait, it makes sense. Wolof, Jollof. Oh,
Yes. Yes.
that changed the whole game that day. I was like, oh my goodness. But well, there's someone
So,
who might disagree with you. That's my wife
mhm,
because
okay.
she's eating benachin from Nigeria, Ghana,
In
um,
Senegal.
Mali. Has she eaten
Uh-huh.
Senegal? I think she's eating Senegal,
Mm-hmm.
um, Sierra Leone,
Mm-hmm.
and Liberia. She's eating so, but me, I've eaten more. I've not
Mm-hmm.
eaten from the Gambia. I've not
Oh,
eaten
it's
from
the
the
same as
Gambia.
Senegal. It's
Yeah.
not.
So, but the only one disqualified is Senegal for me was that when they gave it to me, they had fish. I don't like fresh fish.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
they call that chebujin. They have fish
Chef
in it.
Jean.
Yeah.
So if
Yep.
it had like smoked fish, aha, that's my favorite. I
Uh,
prefer smoked fish or fried fish even.
fried
Yeah.
fish.
So but it was fresh fish. So I was trying to dodge the fish instead of focusing on the rice. So
Yeah,
yeah.
we,
So
we
I
eat
have
a
to
lot of fish.
try Gambian without the fresh fish. Give me goat meat.
Yeah, goat meat. I love goat meat. You
Yeah.
can either have it goat meat, beef.
No, it has to be goat meat. If you want me to give my full assessment, goat meat, then we can
Goat meat.
talk.
Okay.
But officially, the official statement of this podcast is just invite me to eat the jollof. I don't discriminate. I eat all benashin. I eat all
And
of
then I
them.
said,
I eat all of
good.
them. I eat all of them. But my wife will tell you that she tells you it's Nigerian. That she I did not tell her to say she's the one that's the one she
Yeah.
says. Then
And
it's
and
not the views of this podcast. It's the views of my wife. That's my own.
I used to work with a sister from Nigeria, and then when she finally agreed that jollof was from the Senegambia area, right? She said, "Well, have you ever considered like people who invented something and somebody becomes more, better at making it than they
Nigerians love to say
did?"
that too. That's very Nigerian. Very Nigerian right there.
Yeah.
Ah,
So I said, I knew I
uh,
couldn't win with her, so I
nope.
said,
You
okay.
can't win an argument with a Nigerian. Forget it. Forget it. Even when it comes to me, there's times I use that card too. So
Uh,
so
but I do love biryani
oh,
outside of biryani.
okay. So you
Yeah.
you guys have your own biryani too, or is it?
No, 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 no,
Oh,
no.
just
This
bring.
is
So
yeah,
do you
just
have a particular
biryani from.
biryani that you like? Because East Africa has their biryani. If it's
I
Uganda,
I
Kenya, or from
I think
India or
I
North
think
Africa or
I
Middle
think the
East.
one that I've had is from India. India, I
Okay,
have some Indian friends, so
all
I
right.
haven't tried. Even though I have friends from East Africa, I haven't tried the
I
biryani.
haven't eaten East African, but I've eaten Middle Eastern. I've eaten Bahraini. I've eaten Moroccan.
Okay.
I've eaten a Moroccan
Oh,
place
okay.
when I was in the Middle
Okay.
East. I ate at the Moroccan.
Okay.
That was the first biryani I actually had. Was at the Moroccan place, and then I
Okay.
started finding out biryani is not does not belong to one place. It's
But
everywhere.
but
So
different
yeah,
variations of
yeah.
it.
So So now the next fun question is, um, yeah, there's no way you're gonna deny that you don't dance. No,
Oh yes.
you're a
I
dancing man. So
oh yes. Oh
we
yes.
need you to dance for at least an hour, at
Mm-hmm.
least for an hour. And you come from a part of the world that has some good music. They have some
Correct.
good music, and your name even relates to
Yes.
music. So
I
that
love music.
that makes this question even better. So now we need you to dance for at least an hour and give us at least three musicians that will keep you dancing for at least an hour.
Well, if I enjoyed actually listening to reggae,
I knew you were
but
gonna go with reggae.
yeah, but I don't think I can dance to reggae for an hour. I can probably do it for 5, 10 minutes.
Okay.
But but you know, it's Gambia, Senegal, mostly Senegalese music. Actually, it's called Mbala. I don't know if you've heard of Youssou.
Yep, I have him.
There's Vivian, all these newer people, you know, people that are coming up. So I can actually dance to Mbala for an hour. Then I listen to a lot of music from Uganda.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, I don't understand what they're singing, but I like the music from Uganda. So I listen to Chameleon, Baby Cool, all these other people.
His name is
Uh,
Chameleon.
yeah, I think Chameleon, yeah. Uh,
Mm. I don't think I have that one in my library. I have
let
too
me,
many artists in my library, but I still keep adding every day from all over the world. So
is it Chameleon? Yeah, I think he's big. Um,
Chameleon. I probably may have heard one of his songs, or
is
at
it
least.
Chameleon?
But yeah, okay. I'll definitely check that one out. You said Chameleon. And what's the other person's name?
There's Baby Cool,
Bebe Cool.
Baby Cool.
Okay.
A lot of them. I have to remember their names, but I listen to a lot of music from Uganda.
Mm.
Um,
It's Tanzania that I have a lot of musicians from right now. But yeah, Uganda. I probably should have at least one
I
Ugandan.
I probably, I mean, I listen to a lot of. I think it's yeah, Chameleon.
Okay,
Chameleon.
I'll check them out and I'll let you know if you got the name wrong or not. But I think you got it
Uh,
because you listen to them more than I do. So
yes, yes,
yeah,
and
I have artists from literally all over Africa. I'm trying to get from all the African countries, honestly.
so yeah, I listen to that. I listen to Zimbabwean music, the late Tukudzi, Oliver Tukudzi, Congolese music.
Oh, Congolese is that's actually my number one.
Yeah, so I've basically any music from Africa. Oh, Nigerian too. I have the one that I listen to a lot. I have to look him up really
Which
quickly.
one? Bonner Boy or is it Whiskey or is it
Yeah, I listen to Whiskey. I listen to the
uh,
ladies, of course.
is it
What are the ladies' names?
Tiwa Savage
Yeah, Tiwa Savage. Yes, I listen to
Yemi
yeah,
Alade?
yeah, yeah, me, yeah, Alade. Yes, and what's the other guy? They did a music. Dorobuchi. I
Oh,
know
Dorobuchi. Oh, so you're a Dorobuchi.
yes.
my daughter rocked that song for a few months and then she moved on to something else. But
She moved on.
yeah, she
Yes.
was she was a Dorobuchi
Dorobuchi.
for a few months.
Um, there's actually another one that I listen to, and I actually love it because it has a spiritual component to it. I'm trying to pull up the
Is
name.
it Nigerian?
Yes, it's
Oh,
Nigerian.
is it Final?
No,
Oh, wait, Adekunle Gold.
no. Gosh,
Oh,
the song goes like not because I pray and fast, not because I suffer past. Um,
I don't recall the lines, but
gosh.
if you tell me the artist name,
Yeah, I'll give you the artist. It's a Humble Smith. Humble Smith.
Oh, Humble Smith. Okay, it's one of the newer guys.
Yes, Osinachi is the
Oh,
name.
Osinachi.
Yeah, I had to ask
Osinachi.
my neighbor and ask what
That's
is
fine.
Osinachi. Yes, I
Yeah,
love
that's Igbo.
Osinachi.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
yeah,
they
it's from
told
Igbo.
me
Yeah, it's from the East.
Osinachi
All
from the
right.
east. Okay.
So, before I ask the final question, we have the African Nations Cup coming up in January. I'm thinking of going to Cameroon. I'm still working on it, but probably if all things work out, I'll probably be in Cameroon for that.
Oh, you
And
will be okay.
I'm working. I'm trying to work up something to go. Um, so who are you and your kids going to watch it? And who do you tell
Yeah.
your kids is going to win the African Cup of Nations?
Uh, it's going to be Gambia. Even though we're debutants, right? This is the
Yeah.
first time we're showing up. I think. uh, but so just in case, we didn't make it. So of course I'm going to be rooting for my older brothers in Senegal.
Hey, well, they're overdue to win. Dude, they've been to two finals. They haven't won yet. So,
Yeah.
so can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate you, brother, for sharing your beautiful story and teaching us a lot. So, final question: what would you like to leave the audience with? Could be anything from. If you want to give us from the computer world, the IT world, it's up to you. This is your freestyle. If you want to give us something from your mantra, it's up to you.
It would be from my mantra and what I always believe that first of all, thank you for letting me come on the show. I really enjoyed it. I actually listened to a few episodes. I'm going to become an ardent listener,
Thank you.
and I can't actually wait. I actually didn't know you had merchandise, so of course we can. But but actually, I'm going to share this with a lot of fans all over in Europe and whatever,
I
whoever
appreciate
a fan
that.
of mine. But what I would like to actually leave with the audience is that I believe in giving, and that I think I mentioned in the show that when you have gifts and talents or stuff, material stuff,
Hmm.
it's not just for you. We're all in this together, right? We're all heading the same way. So there's no need to put someone down, think you're better than another person, because we're all heading the same way to the
Yeah.
grave. At the end of life, stuff that we fight over wouldn't even matter at all.
Hmm. That's beautiful as always. Ah, thank you, my brother. How do you say thank you
In
in
Wolof,
Manjaku?
In Manjaku, we'll say Baran, right?
Baran?
Baran, like Barang.
Yeah.
If you want it in Wolof, it's Jerejef.
Jerajef.
If you want it in Mandinka, which I think it's partly Arabic, it's Abaraka.
Abaraka. Oh, yeah,
Mm.
that's different from Shukran. I know Shukran.
Okay. Shukran. Okay.
Jera
Abaraka.
Abaraka. That
Jerejef.
one I'll remember easily. Abaraka.
Yeah. Abaraka, Jerejef,
That
Baran.
sounds like somewhere in Nigeria. Abaraka.
Abaraka.
That will come.
I think it's partly Arabic. There's some
Hmm,
Arabic to it, I think, yeah.
that will come to me later on.
Because Barak means blessing. Abaraka means, so it probably means God, bless you. Like
Oh,
instead
okay.
of saying thank you, bless you. I think I don't know Arabic. I'm not claiming to, but I'm very interested in language, and I think that's what it is.
Okay.
Might be.
Well, but yeah, you always appreciate it. Do you have anything you would like to plug in?
Not anything in particular.
Okay. I always give my guests the opportunity. I always ask. All right. So, Barang and Abaraka for coming
Abaraka, yeah.
on the show, and to everyone listening, Abaraka to you. Come back next week for another episode. Keep the love coming in. Like, share, subscribe, and you can join us on Patreon if you want for bonus content. And you can also get our merchandise too. Yeah, do good, be good. Thank you for the privilege of your company. Thanks for listening to White Label American. If you enjoy the show, we'll appreciate if you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. If you have any questions, comments, or have someone who will be a good guest on the show, or you want to be on the show, send us a message at whitelabelamerican@gmail.com. And make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at White Label American. Thank you for your support.